Right. Onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
Okay, okay, good. So just a little bit of a balance. Just taking it to a sprint back sweep. Working to the sides. It's a rotation. I need to open and close. Just moving freely, any direction. Good. You take into a nice deep breath in, reaching up, reaching down. Last one. Let's coming up halfway, stopping at the knee. Just go to a bit of cat cow with the spine. So a little bit more flexible, picking the head through the motion. Great. And finish the shoulders forward and back. There, get forwards. That's nice. A little bit of tight circles. Wait. Extend that through the hands. Roll and alternating through the palms. Roll through the elbows. And the other way. Rolling with a figure of 8. Direction. Taking those back to the rotation. Reaching up and over to the side. Mid circles with dips. Direction. Release. Feet together, take into a tight circle. Change in direction. Using the knees out, down, using the hands. Just a little bit of pressure out with the arms. Yeah, press it back up, taking one foot back, press the heel down to the ground. To the other side. And the knee just floated off the ground. Add a little bit of a pulse up and down. Come to the center, sit the hips low. Take it to the other side. To the knee off. Ground. Take the legs nice and wide. The hands down. Time to release the head towards the ground as far as you can with it. Take the elbows, shield the head. And if you can, bring the hands behind the back, open up the shoulders. Walking the hands out, keep the hips back, lengthen through the body. Take the weight forward into hands, roll the feet together at the back, walking out with the heels. Lengthen through both legs, pull the hips up a little bit. Yeah, walking the hands to the feet. Take it to a gentle forward fold. Each time coming to standing. Great, just loosen out the wrist a little bit, rolling one over the other. Change your direction. Loosen the palm. Yeah, pressing out the fingertips. Make your fists. Start to draw them away from the body to the sides. Start to go up to the top of the head. Start to drag into the front. To the sides. Let's hold the fist and then just take the whole body into tension. So just going to come up the bottoms of the toes. Pull the legs strong, pull the arms strong. Torso. And just release it. So just a few with this. 5, 6 seconds with the in-breath. Tension everything up as much as you can. And then take time on the release. Let everything settle back in. One more with it. Shaking out the wrist, loosen them out. And release the arms. the legs. Pick everything out. Good. Okay, we'll do some bokkei. Day. Continue. It's the day. So when you're ready, just take it into the first 𝗧𝗪𝗏. So just a nice clear form with it. Touching the back. Nice solid cut. This is a little bit of a strange one, but it's a kind of trick for the body, and it's to look at where the core kind of engages really through the cut. So one of the issues we have with the basic is that we tend to do like the core engagement, everything as you kind of land everything here. So everything kind of timed together in terms of coordination. Everything kind of rolls together. This is like where we start in terms of just trying to coordinate all the limbs and the sword and everything. But what you're looking for later is that the core's kind of engaging just before the cut arrives. So the trick with this one is just play with this is that I'm really going to cut strongly with it, but I just focus on the core engaging through the cut, and then the arms kind of go soft through it. So it looks similar to kind of arcing the sword through this way, and it actually is the same. But the focus on this case is like I'm really going to make that cut, and I just don't focus the hands through it. But what I'm really looking for in this case is where the core engages through the motion. In terms of timing, it's going to start to be engaged here in the motion, and then it's going to continue to be engaged through the drain down. One of the issues with the swing through is that the core tends to disengage through it, and I kind of release the core. Okay, but we'll look at the idea of going into like KUMITACHI work, and in this case, it's really important that the core's really engaging through this part of the cut, because that's where I'm making contact and then cutting through with it. So think about it's just the portion where the cut's starting to come in, but I'm just focusing here on just kind of engagement through the core. And it doesn't mean just the kind of, we were just talking about six-pack abs, beach body six-pack abs. It doesn't mean just the front of the core. It means like the whole wrap of the body. So the hips are actually included in this. So the core engagement is really like this whole section of the body, also the inner thigh, everything kind of engaging in. So this kind of feeling in the body. It helps first to kind of brace the structure. So it's where the breath's a bit useful, because the breath can really engage and activate that part of the body from the diaphragm. But later you want to kind of release into it in a sense. But just play with it. It's just the sense that you cut in it. And again, the key is like where does the core engage, and kind of maintain the engagement through that portion of the cut as well. A little bit tricky to teach in person, so but a bit tricky to do as well. So. I don't know if you can see this very well. These are the anatomy trains lines, and this is the myofascial line. So a lot of the time I focus on fascial lines. This is actually the musculature in the area. So this is what's called the deep front line. And if you talk about core work, this is really the kind of muscle groups that you're kind of activating. So particularly like the inner thigh, into the psoas, going, and this all connects into the diaphragm, up into the muscles inside the rib cage, and up into the side of the neck, going up into the skull this way. Also dropping down through the back of the calf into the heel. So in terms of core engagement or core recruitment, that's kind of the area you're looking to do. And again, the breath is going to be what's kind of driving that whole motion and the ability for the body to recruit it. So it's actually a perfect move to look at it, because it's like you've got a really strong position here. You've got the length of the spine, neck's really active, back of the heel's active, and then just think about maintaining that connection through. So again, it's a kind of recruitment for that deep front line of the body, which is where you're really, of course, kind of engaging from, and again, connecting to the diaphragm, connecting to the hip flexors. All this kind of line wants to be kind of recruited into it. And then there's a kind of three-dimensional view of the body, rather than just thinking about the front of the core of the body, in which case is quite superficial. Yeah. Another way to look at this, if you play with a little bit more of a 𝘥𝘠𝑚𝑖𝑛𝑢chi movement, so more like still starting at the head but letting it arc away. Think about cutting through something. So if you imagine the target you were cutting was kind of here and kind of torso wide, think about cutting through this area here. Now, if I'm not recruiting the core as I cut through, you're going to get basically like a bounce off, or the structure is going to be kind of weak through it, and basically won't cut through it. So think about cutting through this area of the torso, and that's where the core is really kind of engages. It passes through this area, and it maintains engagement through this way. So put a little bit more structure behind it in terms of the cut. You're using a 𝘥𝘠𝑚𝑖𝑛𝑢chi, so it's cutting kind of from the top of the head to the hip. But it's just going to arc around in this plaiting. That's it. If you imagine kind of really slicing through something, and really with a kind of core engagement through it, you could do this both sides. It's a little bit easier to work on the right leg first. That's kind of where you're strongest in that position. That's it. So it's really like what would need to recruit if I was actually trying to transmit weight through that movement. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good. Now just mixing a little bit of 𝘱omen 𝘥𝘠𝑚𝑖𝑛 with it. So sometimes finding the center line. It's a little bit easier to find in terms of if I go back into the cut, in terms of that structure. This kind of thing. And it's also working a little bit of 𝘥𝘠𝑚𝑖𝑛𝑢chi work this way, so cutting across a diagonal. So it's just a little bit of a change in the hip, but again, keep that core engaging through it. And it's going to start to engage again, just as the tip starts to pass through the torso. And that's generally kind of making contact. In terms of practice, we've been making contact with the sword and cutting through it this way. So real contact, you're looking to basically make contact and cut through it this way. In this case, just a little bit more of a percussion at the end of it. So that core engagement, and you're adding into it. Now a little bit of percussion at the end of it. But again, the core's already recruited into the pattern. It's just now slotting the handwork into it so that it's adding that percussion just at the tip of the end of the cut. And then just take it into number 5 on the spot. Focus on the same thing. So you can do 3 things with this. You can just kind of slice through. In which case, this is just really focusing on the hip work and just letting the sort of kind of travel in that path. The second thing is just start to add a little bit again of like core recruitment through it. The cut becomes a little bit heavier in this area. But again, the hip work and the core engagement become the focus. And then from there, you're just looking to start to add in the percussion through the handwork. So it's that core engagement, hip work going, but just feel free, just mix them in a little bit. So it's just working on the hip work, driving the movement, and a little bit of core engagement through it, noticing where the hip starts to find the weight through the ground, and then just adding a little bit of percussion through that. And that kind of hierarchy or progression through it, it's kind of where you want to work with it. So it's like hip-led first, hip-led movement first, starting to engage the core through that structure, and then kind of add in that peripheral focus of the body. Nice. Good. And as you're doing this, just notice with this one, again, it's a problem, not a problem with the movement, but it's a demand of the movement that if I don't have core engagement or like 20–30% core engagement, what happens is the body starts to kind of raise up and down through it. And then recruiting the core is a little bit tricky because I'm actually pulling myself out of the ground to do it. So if you look again, if you go to this picture, if you focus on the hips, in this case, you're looking like inner thigh muscles, and again, connecting to the hip work. Now, in terms of being dense and heavy, that's where you want the core to be kind of recruiting from. So in this case, think about as you go into the step, again, it's really engaging through the hip and the core of the body this way. Think about the hips send the sword up rather than the arms lift the sword up and the hips get pulled out. So it's like the hip flexor here and the inner thigh is kind of driving the sword up. And as I transfer across, also the inner thigh here and this hip flexor is really also recruiting into this way. So what you're doing now is you're passing that recruitment across the body as well. And you're using that motion to stay in the ground through the raise. And it's a little bit easier to find that recruitment again through the core. The danger now is that I start to make everything very rigid, it becomes very stuck. So there is a natural rise and fall in the motion. But again, I don't want to do it at the expense of losing the ground with the motion. So it's like how dense, heavy can I be in the lower body, how free can I make the upper body. Yeah, nice. That's it. Very nice. We'll just work one side of this. Think about one forward cut and one backward cut. So it's just working that same logic now into that forward path. Think about, again, the hips kind of kick the sword up, you stay with the ground, and then you engage into it. I think you do the same thing going back now. It's a little bit less circular going back because I don't really need the tip to go around the back of the head in order to do this because I'm not really protecting the body in that area. So when you do go back, it's a little bit shorter in terms of movement, and it's going into this pattern. So as you go forward, you're finding that circular path. And the real reason for that later is that I'm using the sword to protect the side of the body as I go. As I'm going back, I don't need to do that because I'm just taking it straight away into a defensive response. So just play with from the right side, you're going to left cut forward, landing the weight, then right cutting back to do it. So one forward, one back. Use the same logic, onwards it just a little bit different. The function of the movement is a little bit different. And same challenge again, it's not to kind of unplug from the ground with the raise. Hips remain the kind of priority, core engaging, and then kind of find that focus in the periphery. Nice. Great. And then just play with a few from the left side. So same idea, you've got the right cut forward this time, getting through, and then finishing, you finish on the left side. We don't tend to finish on the left side in the fall, particularly later in the partner practice, but it's just worthwhile also practicing that same kind of core engagement on the left side. Sometimes in variations we finish on the left side, and also that basic practice like 𝘭𝘪𝘦𝘴 we finish. That same kind of core engagement. And then just work on 2 cuts and 2 back, so 2 cuts forward, 2 back, starting on the right side in this case. So you've got 1 cut on the left, really ground it, and then release it into that right side cut. Just reset the body in this case, and then you go cut on the left side back, cut on the right side back this way. So you're just looking again to just ground, recruit the body, really try to orientate everything around the hip work. So ground. So 2 cuts forward, 2 back. Very good. Great. So we'll just say this is one practice. It's just using the ski, and it's going to be the same side skis, just for the sake of this case. Work with a front and back pattern. So it's just working. Start with a 𝘥𝘰𝑦𝘔𝗔𝗓 in this case, and then think about the core's going to engage through the tip of the weapon this way, and then just take it to the back, cut into a 𝘥𝘰𝑦𝘔𝗔𝗓 left side, and then find that ski on that side. So it's just looking now again, kind of stay plugged into the ground, keep the core engaged, and then find that focal point of the periphery of the body. And think about the hips work being the focus. You drive the core through the sword, and then you add in that focus of the hands. So in terms of feeling, it's like any kind of ski work in a sense where you're pressing away from the body. Think about kind of squeezing it out of the core this way. So anything which is kind of leaving the body in this plane, you're going to want to have the feeling that the core's kind of engaged and actively kind of pressing it away. I have core engagement, and then I kind of press out, and then I wait for the end of it. Everything's kind of weak in just before the strike. So what I want to think about is just play with this in this case. You're here. Think about the cut down into that back foot, and then think about just squeezing open the hip. So I'm not going to kind of travel forward with it. I'm just going to find the back foot, and then I'm going to think about from this position squeezing open the hip. So you're here, and then this squeezes it out this way, rather than the sense that I go like wait for the focal point to engage the core. So again, focus on the hip work. You're just going from this position to this position. It's just an opening of the hip work. And then again, think about the core engages through that opening and sits into it. Sits into it, and then you again just adding a little bit of focus to it. And it's kind of core orientated to the periphery of the body. And in terms of movement, it's just the hip initiating it to open the body up a little bit more. You're just using that anchor in the back leg to maintain that sense of ground contact. Nice, that's it. So, good. Okay, yesterday was one of the more complex partner practice. We'll look at one of the simpler ones, and it's the beginning of the KUMITACHI set, or partner practice set that we do with the sword. So it's got some interesting moves in it. The first one we'll look at is this, for the attacking side, it's to work with the ski motion and start to work with a thrust which also protects the body as well. So idea of this is to, as the person's created an opening for this, I'm going to take advantage of it and I'm going to step out to the side with the left leg. And as I do, I'm going to start to thrust the weapon in. The idea with the bokken is to make a kind of percussive blow with this part of the sword into the diaphragm, the body. So the idea is to basically come out and snap the contact of the sword in this way. So we'll just play with this step by step. You've got the right foot down, don't move the right foot at all, just sink the weight into it. The body goes off to the left side, and then you just apply the strike through this way. So you're looking at a really kind of percussive blow. And again, it's one that's going to be kind of squeezed out of the body. So it uses that similar logic of the ski work, just a little bit of a different application of that motion this way. So right foot stays where it is for now. Just send the body out to the left. And I guess how much I can get the core recruiting to find that percussion in the periphery of the body. Yeah, so one thing tends to happen with this movement, because the body's going sideways, actually from this angle, the body tends to start to go this way, starts to focus in this area. But your focus stays in the front, so it's really this kind of feeling. The body's really going forward with it, so the target for the strike is basically here in that pattern. So the body is going off to the left, and that's to protect me from the cut this way. But try and avoid going into this area where you start to take the focus this way. So that comes later in terms of the movement, but that's where my focus is right at the beginning. So it's just maintaining, again, focus on the target basically. That's it. So that's it. Good. And then we'll just say this is the next step with it. So it's coming out with the left side, you've got that pattern. And then the right foot is going to drag the sword up to the top. So as you draw the right foot in, you know, squeeze the sword up to the top of the head. Then you're in a really small position. The body's sitting down into the posture in this case. So just playing with coming into that position. And you want to feel really balanced with it. So you go off to the left side, you draw the hip up, draw the sword up with it, and you come up to the top of the posture this way. And again, you just want to feel it sitting into it. It's as if you're on really like a high stool. for the body. Just relax into the posture. You want to feel the hips are free, knees are still loose, so that you can just mobilize from that position. Quite a strange position, and it's one that kind of disappears a little bit later, but it's a kind of transitional posture to work with. Nice. Good. Nice. Good. And then from that, just explore getting into a cut with it. So the idea is you strike it, you draw it to the top, and then you're using the connection again in the hip and the core just to engage the sword into the cut. So you're cutting down on the left side. This is actually quite a sharp, it's quite a fast cut. So it's actually one that's going to be from this position. If you imagine you've got someone in front of you who has cut already, my aim with this cut would actually just drive down onto the forearm this way. So the person's in this position. The target for my blow is basically go on straight onto the forearm. It's going to go through it this way. So it's not a cut which is kind of out from the body. I mean, it's not going to go this way, and you're not really going forward with it. So you're finding this, you're evading through this, and then you're driving the weight of the body down into that left side cut. It's quite a contained movement, and it's quite a fast movement. That's the idea with this. Yeah, nice. So the first one kind of misses, you use that top position to evade, and then you use the follow-up to find the next strike. Very good. Nice. Always put the priority on the hip work. So if you think about this, the more I go into this, the easier it is to start to lose the hip work and basically get pulled by the periphery of the body. So think about really, again, just drive everything from the core of the body and let the hips express the movement. The sword just follows in this case. So you've got a big range of motion with the hip in this case. You've got this motion coming in, and then you've got this roll through into that left side cut, and the body's just rotating around the hip work. You're obviously moving forward with it. You don't do it at the expense of kind of losing the core of the body. The more comfortable with it, the more you can start to work with and a little bit more fluidity through it, and a little bit of speed through it. Good. All right. Good, and then we just finish the form. It's the left side gets blocked, and then you find another cut with it. So you go for the stomach, you draw it up, you're cutting for the forearm, this gets blocked, and then you've got a final cut on the right side. In terms of hip work, again, you're just opening the hip work out. Yeah, and rather than going just forward, I'm going around and then cutting down to the right side as well. So lots of hip work again, you're going in, up, around on the left. Final cut onto the right side. start to have a little bit of flow with it, but think about the first move now. So what we did before in terms of focus was like 1, striking 2. This really goes into one pattern now. So as soon as you step with that foot and strut, you're basically taking the sword up to the top this way. Hips are in position to drive through, and then you're in that final position here. So start to blend, particularly that first and second step in, which was like this going to this. And start to again just work that as one piece. You can have a choice. You can either flow through the rest of it, or just keep it as a kind of basic form. But the focus now is to kind of drive that first pattern together through it. And it's a little bit tricky. It's quite easy to lose the structure now. Quite easy to lose that focus in the front. So I need a strong intention again to strike through and then use it to find the rest of the form. Yeah, very nice. There we go. Great. I'm just finishing with a really serves as kind of the last step in most of the kumite or all the kumitachi when you're finishing the form on the other side. But we'll just focus on here because it's relevant to what we're looking at before. In this case, I'm going to start left foot. I'm just going to, in this case, just draw the left hip back as I draw the sword out, and then I'm going to engage through the right hip and find a 𝘥𝘠𝘦𝘢𝘵 with it. So it's a really simple form. It's like a tight form to what we were doing before in terms of stepping back and going into this position. But in this case, it's just drawing the hips back and then engaging through the hip this way. And it's just an issue of hip-driven motion and core engagement through it. And then again, trying to focus through the periphery. And you're just on the spot with this one. So it's a draw back, raise, and then a cut in with it this way. You want to really make this one motion now. So this is like drawing the hip and then straight away cutting with the right side. So you can do it slowly, but allow it to become really one motion now. This is just for the right side in this case. You can finish on the left side, but Great. Good. We'll just take 30 seconds. So just find a shoulder width, hip width, sorry, and just slowly loosen out. So just release out the core. Let this whole area start to just soften down. Start by just aligning the head, rib cage, pelvis. Just let the knees soften. Let the grip soften. So take a couple of big deep breaths with it. Just gently to release the arms, just let the body loosen down. Then keep the breasts nice and big. Keep the knees soft, release through the shoulders. Relax the head and face. Just take your time coming back up. Very good. Great. We will stop. We'll break down. Right. どうもありがとうございました。
どうもありがとうございました。
Okay, doke. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.